Inside. Yeah, okay. So as you probably know, we are dividing this workshop into 4 sessions. Today, session 1, and continuing into Thursday's session, we will begin with oral language principles and strategies which are useful when working with ESL students who have limited English language ability. Then we will move into the principles and strategies for teaching the 4 components of reading, alphabetics and vocabulary on session 2, and fluency and comprehension in session 3. We will also cover some basic principles and strategies for teaching writing, and will introduce you to the language experience approach. In the 4th session, we will share techniques for setting and evaluating goals, for managing your classes, and what you need to do to get started. We will have a review with a time for brief questions and discussion at the end of each of these topics. But if you have questions during the presentations, please post them to chat. We will take a short break about the middle of each session. We hope to end before 9 o'clock tonight. Next slide. Our overall objective for this training is to provide you with the basic background knowledge and tools that you will need to get started with either an ESL student or a basic literacy student. The ideas and techniques we'll share with you in this training are not dependent on any specific books, and they can be used for tutoring students at any level. After this workshop, when you are matched with a student, one of our volunteer tutor coordinators, and it might be Lynn, they will meet with you and recommend specific materials for your particular student and will help you become familiar with them before you start. We will be providing you with a copy of these slides after the workshop for you to keep for reference. In addition, you should have received a digital copy of a handout file that supplements the information in these slides. You should also have received a copy of the Literacy Council Frederick County Tutor Information Book. The TIB, as we sometimes call it, is an invaluable resource that has been developed by trainers at the Literacy Council over many years. We will be making reference to these 2 resources as we go along through the workshop. Our specific objective for this introduction is to briefly revisit material that you saw in the pre-workshop training. We will also help you understand what it is like to learn to read from a student's perspective. You were asked at the end of part 1 of the pre-workshop training to consider some basic differences that tutors might experience with ESL and basic literacy students. Do you remember what ideas you had? One perceived advantage of working with a basic literacy student is that you begin by both speaking the same language. An advantage for working with an ESL student could be that they might already be highly literate in reading English, but just need practice speaking or help with pronunciation. The basic literacy student may be lacking confidence or may have negative learning experiences. They're used to hiding their inability to read due to stigma and the fear of being found out. The ESL student may have problems dealing with life in their new community or have difficulty understanding our culture and how things are done. Both types of students may be very nervous, and both categories of students are equally rewarding and challenging.
Another thing that we asked you to do on between the workshop and this meeting was to think a little bit about what are the characteristics of a good tutor. We gave you a couple starter ideas and you were going to fill out the list. Well, I only think it's fair, since it's been months between the sessions, that what I do is I'll give you my list of what I thought make a good tutor. I'd like you to write in the chat room if there's something that I neglected on that list. Put it down, okay? And we'll look at it after this slide. So what are some of the things that make a good tutor? Well, first and foremost, to me, it's positive attitude. Let me tell you a story. If you were at the doctor's and he said to you, God help, you know, you need to have surgery and it's really important. What is the first thing you think you'd ask? What would you want from a surgeon? You'd probably ask, oh, how much experience does he have? What's What's his success rate? What is the hospital like? The last thing you would probably ask is, what's his personality like? You know, is he friendly? Is he supportive? But when you're a tutor, that's actually probably the most important characteristic you can have, is to be positive. And I don't mean bubbly and I don't mean cheerful. I mean positive in the way of being supportive, of being encouraging, of being patient, of being understanding and flexible. Remember that these adults, learners, have other responsibilities, and they're giving you every time that they can, and sometimes it's just not enough. But if you can be supporting in that way and that positive, that's going to be the most important factor, I think. Another thing is to be prepared. Good tutors show up, they show up on time, and they show up prepared. You're most likely to have an issue with maybe your student isn't there or isn't prepared. And again, there's many reasons for that. But what I want you to remember is that if you think it's going to be a problem, missing like more than 2 lessons, call your coordinator, and we'll try to get to the bottom and see what the problem is. Finally, good tutors admit their mistakes, and more importantly, they show the student that making a mistake is a normal everyday part of life. A lot of your ESL students are just afraid to practice their English because of the fear of being laughed at or making mistakes. So, you know, when you make a mistake, laugh at yourself. Show them it doesn't hurt. In fact, show them it can be fun. So I hope you're writing in the chat room. Take a minute now, and I'm going to turn on the chat and see if there's anything that you want to add to that list. Oh, that's a good one. Carol says compassion. Absolutely. And a good listener. Why didn't I think of these things? Okay, keep coming. Okay, I'll give you another 10 seconds. Encouraging, absolutely. Oh, Sarah, a good sense of humor is required. It's critical. All right, I think we've got a pretty good tutor right there. Let's move on to the next slide. This is just a review of some of the literacy facts, just so you understanding. Obviously, 36 million adults is a huge number. These are people who don't read or write above a 4th grade level. The lowest literacy levels are related to, we know that, poverty, lack of education. It's hard to get ahead. I think you're also aware that parents who have low literacy skills have a 72% chance of having children who also have the lowest levels. So we want to get in there as adults and not say it's too late for them, because it's not. Frederick and Washington County have fairly, I think, high levels of illiteracy. So thank you very much for being here, all you people from Frederick County and Washington County too. Finally, 14% of people nationwide are functionally illiterate. And as you know, you can't have a complete contribution to your community if you're functionally illiterate. So we want to try to work real hard and keeping those numbers way down, down, down. Okay, next slide. And that's Beth.
You've seen this slide before also, listing some facts about literacy in the US, Frederick County and Washington County. Because our students come from a variety of educational and economic backgrounds and diverse life experiences, one-on-one tutoring is ideal so that each can get the individualized learning that they need. Most of our current students in Frederick County are ESL students, but we do currently have a waiting list for basic literacy students. Next. You've also seen this slide before. Although we usually define literacy as the ability to read and write, there are other types of literacies, each with their own vocabulary and specific sets of knowledge. Our tutoring and what we teach in this workshop focuses on building reading and English language skills, but we often discover that we have to touch on some of these other areas in our lessons to help our students succeed. Our world is complex and adults need to have the skills to navigate in it. Our job as tutors is to help them. If you need assistance with any of these other areas, please do not hesitate to contact your volunteer coordinator. Here's another slide that you've seen before. We want to remind you that even after this workshop, you are not alone in your tutoring journey. There are many resources available to you as a tutor, and you only have to ask. Currently, visits to the council library are by appointment only, but you can browse the library online on the Literacy Council website and request materials through curbside pickup. The volunteer tutor coordinators are available anytime by appointment for consultation and advice. Tutors from Washington County are also welcome to participate in the Frederick County Tutor Chats and professional development sessions. You will be notified about these events as they come up after the workshop, but you can check the calendar in advance on the council website at frederickliteracy.org, looking under news events. For now, these events are being conducted virtually. The next tutor chat is scheduled for Friday, November 20th at 11:30 a.m. and you can register for the Zoom session for that tutor chat on the council website. Remember, adults learn best by doing. Adults also like to see a connection between what they are learning and what they want to do in the real world. Adults learn best when they feel valued, when their opinions are appreciated, and when they feel listened to. Adults need to feel safe in the learning environment and feel free to make mistakes. Adults may have formidable barriers to learning. Your job as a tutor is to accept, guide, and support the student. Our students can be very different people. A young mother from Mexico, an 18-year-old high school dropout, or a 60-year-old man who can't read, all with difficult and specific challenges to their learning efforts. So this is not just about grammar and sentence construction and vocabulary building. This is about people. It is so important to remember that your students are people first, with their own set of experiences, attitudes, motivations, and emotions.
Learning differences, and I think this, you might remember this slide too, are factors that affect each and every student's speed and ease of learning. This is not to be confused with learning disabilities, which affects a very small percentage of the population. Everybody has their own particular learning styles and learning factors that affect how they perform. Input differences are things like, are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Are you a kinesthetic learner? If you remember the multiple intelligences, everybody has a style that they favor. Nobody has just one style. It's always a mixture, but there's usually a dominant one. If you don't know what your own style is, it would be interesting. There's lots of websites on the web that will help you determine that. Another important area is the environment. And I say this because you're going to meet with your student. What time of day is your student? Sometimes you don't have a choice. But if there is your student a morning person or an evening person? How long can your student work? Are you better off having 2 45-minute sessions a week or 1 2-hour session? That's things that you will determine and you will decide. Finally, what about the setting? Does your student need a lot of quiet, or do you want music in the background? I know that when my husband does the taxes, he puts the music on, drives me crazy, but he needs that auditory stimulation. So again, you're not going to know this at your first session, and don't worry about it. But long-term, keep in mind that these are things that will affect how quickly and how easily your student learns.
Can I,
Sure.
Can you back up just for 1 second, Caroline? You notice on this slide, there's a reference in the lower right-hand corner that says TIB. And the next slide, there is a reference that says handout. These slides, we've tagged these slides with references to the tutor information book and the handouts that you should have received, where you can read more information about these topics. And this is true throughout the whole, the whole workshop. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. And there's a handout down in the corner that Beth was referring to. And sometimes you'll see both TIB and handout. Okay, this is just a really quick review of the importance of being aware of culture, both surface culture, the shallow, the food, the music, the dress, spoken and conscious rules. And these are things that have what we call a relatively low emotional load. People aren't likely to get too offended if you make an accident or, confuse something in this level. Deep culture, these are the things that are more deeply bred, things that affect courtesy and their sense of time, things that you'll get you in trouble, and deep would be like asking Americans how much money they make. Or if you happen to go up to somebody from a Mideastern country and put a friendly arm around his wife, these kind of things you want to try to be aware of when you get a student from a different country. A little bit of research on the web on culture would be a good thing and might prevent some embarrassing moments. Okay. I'm out of here.
Okay, yes, I was making sure I wasn't on mute.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to do an activity to show you what it's like to be a student. First, think about what you've read today. It might be a newspaper, an email, directions on a medicine bottle, or instructions like our first slide when you entered the meeting. Remember that we often read without thinking. It just comes automatically to readers. Today we're going to read the story on this slide. The story is composed of English words written with Russian letters. We use it to show literate people how it feels to be unable to read the language that you speak, and it also shows what it's like to try to read an unfamiliar language. I'm going to be the tutor, and Lynn is going to act as my student. But please think about the questions I'm going to ask her, and also feel free to respond aloud along with her, even though you're muted, when we get to reading the story and the chart and everything. It will help you to experience being a student if you play along. So let's see what we as readers already know by looking at the story. Lynn, do you know whether you read this from left to right or right to left?
I'm going to say left to right.
And how do you know that?
Because I think those are periods at the end of this sentences.
That's right. How many paragraphs are there?
2.
How do you know that?
Only because there's a space in between them.
Right. Do you notice anything particular about the sentences?
Well, they're short and they look to have the same words in the first group as well. And in their words repeat.
Right, they're very repetitive. So you as a reader already know quite a bit about starting to try to read this story. So now I'll teach you to read the story as you might teach a non-reader to read English. We're going to start that process by using a chart. Okay, so just answer my questions as I go along, and you who are muted, if you play along, that would be great. Okay, this is a boy. Say boy.
Boy.
This looks like a boy. Say boy.
Boy.
This is the word boy. Read boy.
Boy.
Boy begins with a sound b. Say b.
But.
Again.
But.
Again.
But.
Again.
But.
Good. This is a ship. Say ship.
Ship.
This looks like a ship. Say ship.
Ship.
This is the word ship. Read ship.
Ship.
Ship begins with the sound sh. Say sh.
Shh.
Again. 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 All right, that's good. And this is a ladder. Say ladder.
Ladder.
This looks like a ladder. Say ladder.
Ladder.
This is the word ladder. Read ladder.
Ladder.
Ladder begins with the sound l. Say l. Again. 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 Good. This is a chair. Say chair.
Chair.
This looks like a chair. Say chair.
Chair.
This is the word chair. Read chair.
chair,
Chair begins with the sound ch. Say ch.
ch,
Again,
ch,
again,
ch,
again.
ch.
Good. This is a rope. Say rope.
Rope,
This looks like a rope. Say rope.
rope,
This is the word rope. Read rope.
rope,
Rope begins with the sound r. Say r,
er,
r.
er,
Again,
er,
again.
er.
Good. All right. So you did so well on the chart. Now we'll read the story. And we're going to start with a simpler story first. So read this word
Boy,
and read this word.
boy.
This is a boy. Please read it.
This is a boy.
Good. And read this word.
Ship,
Whoops, I'm sorry. I clicked my a little glitch there. Read this word
ship.
and read the sentence.
This is a ship.
Okay. And read this word
Ladder,
and this word.
ladder.
Read the sentence.
This is a ladder.
Okay. And read this word
Chair,
and this word.
chair.
And read the sentence.
This is a chair.
Okay. And read this word
Rope,
and this word.
rope.
And read the
This
sentence.
is a rope.
Good. All right. So now we'll go back to our original story. And this one is a little tougher, a little longer. So let's review. What's this word again?
Boy,
And what's this word?
boy.
And read this word.
Ship,
And read this word.
ship.
This boy has a ship. Please read it.
This boy has a ship.
Good. And read this word again.
Boy, boy.
And read this word.
Ladder, ladder.
And can you read the sentence?
The boy has a ladder.
This boy
This boy has a ladder.
ladder. Okay, read this word
Chair,
and read this word
chair.
and read the sentence.
This boy has a chair.
Good. And read this word
Rope,
and this word
rope.
and read the sentence.
This boy has a rope.
Okay, very good. Did you notice, everybody, when I was pointing for Lynn to read, I was phrasing the sentence for her to try to help her not read word by word. So this boy has a ship. That's something that you can do with your student. If you're in person, you'll be using your finger to do that. If you're online, you can use your pointer like I'm doing. All right, and we're not going to do the second paragraph, but in case you'd like to know, what it says is this boy is on a ship, this ladder is on a ship, this chair is on a ship, and this rope is on a ship. So how did you feel when you first saw the story?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I'll never read it. It was Greek to me. Only I guess it wasn't Greek. It was Russian.
Okay.
It was Russian to me. No,
Right.
look, I was a little nervous.
Did you look at the pictures to help you remember the words?
Oh yes, a lot.
Okay, so remember that always encourage your student to use all the resources available to them, like pictures. You may have to convince them that it is not cheating to do that, but you want to not cover the pictures. You want to make sure that they go ahead and use them if they need them. So this is the same method that you can use to teach very low level or non-readers. And we'll go into more detail later with a chart in English. Our purpose here was to put you in the shoes of the student, and I hope we